Is America turning on Donald Trump's immigration policies? It was the central tenet of his campaign, but as the crackdown forges on, support appears to be waning. Just a quick recap of this week for you. A federal judge blocked his attempt to end birthright citizenship. DHS have allegedly detained at least 2 legal residents at Alligator Alcatraz. Senate Democrats released new documents that back up allegations that a DOJ official intended to ignore court orders on deportations. And a new Gallup poll found 8 in 10 Americans believe immigration is a good thing. That's the most support that there's been in 25 years. Now, just last summer, that same Gallup poll found 55% of Americans wanted to decrease the number of immigrants coming into the country. Now, today, that number is 30%. And now, even more Americans support giving immigrants in the country illegally a pathway to citizenship compared to last June. Now, this is kind of a surprising result because I think, Jillian, Trump is correct that he ran on immigration. He probably won on immigration. Americans were fed up with what seemed to be an incompetence on the part of the Biden administration in terms of dealing with the border. But the polling is going in the wrong direction. Americans, his approval rating on immigration is not good, and Americans say immigration is good. They want more of it. They want to give illegal immigrants legal status. Why would that be?
Well, the key word, though, is a legal pathway to citizenship. I believe that people don't want to see illegal immigration because it doesn't behoove anyone, including the people that come in illegally. They have no upward mobility, they have no job protections, they're not able to start businesses, and the list goes on and on. It creates resentment amongst citizens that are here, obviously born here, and people that did it legally. It doesn't behoove anyone. But I absolutely believe that both parties should stop the finger pointing and work towards radical immigration reform. I think most people feel that way.
I agree. I mean, but that's, and I just want to clarify one thing. The poll is saying for illegal people who are here illegally right now, they want a pathway to citizenship for them.
The problem is they're calling it radical immigration reform is far too broad, because what I see on TV look pretty damn radical, right? Like, what I think people are seeing is an application of radical reform that is a little bit terrifying on one level. I think the other part of it is when you're talking about these deportations or rounding people up in theory, those aren't actual people. We see all these stories that come out. They're like, hey, man, we love that woman. She waits our tables at this diner. She's our favorite person, and you just rounded her up. So this to people now in application, once becomes something that they see. It stops being an issue or this boogeyman that's out there, and I think that has done a great deal to change how people felt. But what they're getting right now is radical immigration reform. And so I don't think it's necessarily the time to say we need to get together as much as looking at what that budget looked like from that bill, we got some things we need to chill out on pronto, because I think that this has gotten excessive, and I think most people agree.
Case in point to what you're saying, there was a story this week about a woman who had been in the country for decades from Iran. And guess who intervened on her behalf? A Republican, Steve Scalise, intervened. She's here illegally. She had an order for deportation, but she was a stand-up citizen, a mother of citizen children, a wife of a citizen husband. So when it hits close to home, suddenly the same Republicans who are like, deport them all, are saying, actually, not this one.
Not this one. I like that person. I think that we've heard, and people have talked about this, and I'm sure you've talked about this on your show, Joe Rogan, for one, saying, I didn't vote for this. We're hearing people say, I didn't vote for this, but that's because it's affecting home. So I'm in California a couple of weeks ago, and a good friend of mine is saying that she is at the park and she is watching how these nannies are feeling as they are actually babysitting, caring for people's children, and they're concerned and they're scared, and whether they hear the boogeyman of ICE coming and they're just leaving the park with the kids in tow because they're afraid for their lives. So this is starting to affect these families, these upper class families in a lot of ways, and they're seeing how it makes it very scary. But here's what I don't think we're even talking about. Like, I'm reading today, and the Border Czar says, quite simply, all they need is reasonable cause.
I think we have that soundbite.
Okay.
Do we have it? If we have it, let's play it.
People need to understand, ICE officers and Border Patrol, they don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. They just need the totality of the circumstances, right? They just got through the observation, you know, get articulable facts based on the location, the occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. Like a uniformed Border Patrol walks up to them at, for instance, a Home Depot. and they got all these articulable facts, plus the person walks away or runs away. Agents are trained. What they need to detain somebody temporarily and question them. It's not probable cause, it's reasonable suspicion. We're trained on that.
Reasonable suspicion, that to me is terrifying, because right now I feel, to your point earlier, it's not really affecting me, it's affecting them, but soon it will affect everyone. What does reasonable suspicion mean?
Well, in this case, it's you speak Spanish,
But what if it's not?
Working
What
around
if
a
someone
Home
thinks
Depot?
I'm Ethiopian or Haitian? I go down a list of things. If you're telling me all you need to do, at one case you hear two women speaking Spanish, so they were detained. I speak a little Spanish. What am I supposed to do with that? I think it's getting out of control. And right now we're all quiet because we hear what's happening. This is what Americans wanted. This is what we voted for. But to me, if one's not safe, we're all not safe.
I think Americans are waking up to the fact that Donald Trump's administration's immigration focuses on making a point and not making a difference. Right? It's making a point, and it's all about a press conference. It's about Kristi Noem getting up there for 15 minutes of fame, talking about a specific issue. These ICE raids don't make sense in my community. They probably don't make sense in your community to the rational-minded folks that are watching how this operates. If somebody's a criminal and a violent criminal or a drug dealer, we all agree we need to do something about that. But if Donald Trump would have just simply reversed Joe Biden's mistakes at the border, and worked across the aisle to build an immigration policy that actually made sense. Something like a 2-5-10 plan. Been here 10 years, paid taxes for 5 years, have 2 U.S. sponsors, something that grabs the wholesomeness of somebody's effort, not because they crossed the border 20 years ago to try to feed their family, but because they got here and they're trying to figure out the American dream as legally as they can, even though they got here illegally. But Donald Trump isn't. It's all about the next press conference. It's all about the next tweet. It's all about the next person. This alligator Alcatraz thing, I mean, try to explain that to your kids at home. Like, what is this about? This is so juxtaposed to what we learn in church, right? Like, you don't treat people like that and talk about, I mean, you incarcerate somebody if they're a criminal, I understand, but to gallivant, it almost seems barbaric. It is barbaric.
I want
to give you the other side here. First of all, obviously, Alligator Alley and what's going on there is disturbing. But here's the counter argument. You're pointing fingers, and where was everybody pointing fingers with Obama's cages? But let's go a step further.
Although I will say, people did complain about
I don't remember
Obama's
that. I
immigration
remember
enforcement.
canonizing Obama
I know
and
that,
not really knowing about this because no one talked about it.
People did complain, especially immigration advocates. They
I mean,
livid with Obama.
Okay, let's say that's true. I remember Obama being a hero of the left. He was a hero of mine. I didn't know about these cages until we saw Trump put people in them. Now, with that said, let's look at what just happened at the Glass House marijuana farm. Here's what people don't want to see. On the other side, they don't want to see people throwing rocks into the cars of federal agents. They don't want to hear that someone supposedly opened fire on them. They also don't want to learn that there are a bunch of kids there that are undocumented or unaccompanied, and they think this is crazy talk, and we should be focusing on that. For one thing, how did those kids get there?
Well, I just want to add one thing. We do have to go, but the UFW, the United Farm Workers, put out a statement about this. They said the UFW can confirm farm workers were critically injured yesterday during chaotic raids in Ventura County, California. Others, including U.S. citizens, remain totally unaccounted for. Many workers, including U.S. citizens, were held by federal authorities at the farm for 8 hours or more. U.S. citizen workers report only being released after they were forced to delete photos and videos of the raid from their phones. They also added that farm work is exempted from child labor laws. So
you're telling me undocumented?
I'm not saying the undocumented.
I'm not talking about at a marijuana farm.
I'm not talking about the undocumented part, but according to this statement, in this country, not just at farm, not at marijuana farms, at all
semantics.
farms.
Look at the reality of what we're talking about. How did an unaccompanied, undocumented 14-year-old in the middle of the day?
I believe and many people might believe, children should be subject to child labor laws.
Absolutely.
But it's true in this country that when it comes to agricultural work, they're not, and that includes marijuana farms. So the legality of their status is a separate issue, but the fact of children being there is not actually something that is necessarily illegal.
I have a really hard time believing
So there's that. So it's not unusual for there to be teenagers working in a farm.
A 14-year-old can work at a marijuana growing?
It doesn't matter whether it's a marijuana farm or an apple farm.
A kid can't work at a bar.
It's agriculture. They're not smoking
if
the
that's the
marijuana.
law, that's outrageous.
They're cultivating
it.
The point is, the point is, this incident, and we're still learning a lot more about it, was very dangerous and put a lot of people, including
And
ICE
don't
officers and those immigrants, in
attack
danger.
Federal
So,
law enforcement
hey,
agents.
I agree with you, but the tactics are producing chaos
They
and
are.
violence, and I think that is one
That's
of
the
the things
key,
that's
the
caused
tactics that you're talking
people
about.
to.
Who
That's
attacked
the key
first?
question.
That's my question.
And we don't know.
Well,
we will
it
find
seems like
out.
we
Well,
know.
it seems like there's a
We got-
questionable call because they're making them delete photos and videos on their phone. So
Correct.
I'm guessing there's going to be a more complete story as to what's going on.
We will find out, everybody. Thank you for that.